Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to yet another Ask a Doctor on a Wednesday night in here from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm Nate Manahan. I'm your host. I'm going to be watching all your comments where throughout this night, any place, anytime, we would love to have your comments, your questions, your concerns, anything that you would like to ask. And we're going to be, having some fun together. Well, in fact, I think Dr. John has already started. Let me bring him up on camera and Dr. Kelly. But what is that you have on, Dr. John?
Just a face shield so that I can be close to Dr. Kelly and not get any, shall we say, airborne droplets on her.
Well, I think you are significantly safer than most of us in the world today. So, is that the type of face shield that you would recommend going out into the public with?
That's a great question. Something like this actually isn't bad. And the reason is people are going to go, oh, but you're still breathing in. Well, you have to breathe in. And it's more to keep you from getting stuff on other people because there's so many asymptomatic carriers. Recent study published this week from Stanford shows just an astronomical number of people actually had the disease without even knowing that they had the disease in Northern California, specifically Santa Clara County. The good news out of that is what that shows us is actually the death rate is much, much, much lower than what was previously thought.
So let's just talk face masks for a second because I'm just intrigued what your thoughts are on it. When it comes to face masks, there have been so much controversy, and I think now everybody's just settled in that we don't fully know whether it's good or bad or what. Not that it's never bad, and most likely, I guess it can be, but that's just kind of a way of life. But do you think right now, where we are in this society, like how often? Because like I saw a person driving in their own personal car by themselves wearing the mask, and I was trying to come up with a reason why to do that.
Um, because you didn't want to take it off. When you're by yourself, there's really no reason to be wearing a mask when you're by yourself in your own personal space. Um, there's lots of arguments either for or against mask, and we're not going to get into that. Like you just said, Nate, the big thing is we've kind of settled into it. So what do you do? I mean, the mask can be something like this. You do want people to be able to see your eyes. Otherwise, you're just hiding. Don't walk around in your Darth Vader masks. I'm sure there are some people out there doing that. But lots of things can be changed into masks. When we recently were wearing bandanas as masks, you guys have probably seen it on our MG Wellness site. It kind of made us look like we were in the 1800s trying to rob the old Wells Fargo stagecoach. Um, One of our sons turned a t-shirt into a mask based off of something that Surgeon General had said. So there's lots of different things you can do. The only reason why I would say, why is it good just to keep it on? So you get used to it and don't keep touching your face. We as surgeons are used to wearing it and we can't touch our face because, oh wait, we're in surgery when we're wearing it. But for the general person, it's actually difficult to put a mask on and you just constantly want to readjust it. And that's not good. And that defeats the purpose because we know one of the main ways that these aerosolized virus particles are transferred is from touching the face.
All right, we have our first question already, and that's a great way for us to know that you can ask the questions. One of those questions is, let me pull it up here, does getting the flu shot help for the virus? And she added, I thought it was the flu shot you were likely to get the virus.
Actually, disp- so I'll go over the data again, and somebody was very mad on our post this week, I would say, and was pretty irate about me talking about this. But it was actually a Pentagon study that showed if you have taken the flu vaccine, you are 36% more likely to get specifically coronavirus. We'll talk about the flu vaccine and other viruses in a second. But why is that true? It's called viral interference, that there's enough overflow with the flu, the parts of the flu vaccine and the virus, that they don't cover each other, but it actually makes you more susceptible to it. We also know that even though almost all medical agencies promote the flu vaccine, that the flu vaccine, especially in younger people, actually puts you at higher risk for development of non-flu related viral respiratory illnesses. And this is not conspiracy theory. This isn't, it is the data that's been out there for years. And in our post this week, we actually posted the article information. So you can read the articles yourself, both about the flu vaccine and viral illnesses in general, as well as the flu vaccine and the coronavirus.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about specifically mental health. So let's we mental health is a struggle these days, I think, for all of us. And so the first question is, how is this being affected? And I think all of us would agree 100% that being at home as much as we had, the worry that is not sure of what's going on, the worry of what's going on with our jobs, all the stress that's put on has certainly changed our mental health. And so as we think of the current state of mental health with where we are right now, how would you characterize that?
Dr. Kelly, you're the one that knows a lot more about this than I do.
Um, so obviously, I know for all of you, I know for all of us that mental health, the tax on all of us is tremendous. There's so much worry, not only about the coronavirus, that is certainly a massive worry. Do you wear a mask? Have you sanitized enough things in your home? Have you sanitized your hands, your kids' hands, the car doors, your groceries? There's so much talking going on about it, and confusion and stress. Um, we can't see family members that we normally see. Um, Finances are impacted massively. Are you going to qualify for some of the loans from the government? Are you going to lose your job? Are you going to be furloughed? Is furlough really just another name for being laid off and not having a job? Even We had a friend contact us just yesterday about stressing about their elderly mother being in a nursing home or a nursing facility. She's fully active and doesn't really need a whole lot of assistance. But is she in a more dangerous situation being in the nursing facility than she would be living with them, or are they going to expose her to it? So it goes on and on and on. Weddings having to be done virtually.
Funerals
Cancel
have funerals having to be
having
done
to be done
virtually.
virtually. Just it's very, very difficult.
And
And
no, go ahead, go ahead.
no, go.
No, so, and part of it is we just don't have the information, and so we've had to respond, or the government's had to respond based on what information's out there, and it's constantly changing. Um, what we're seeing now in the death rate is dramatically less than what we were expecting. And, had we had real information from China, things could have been very different, but unfortunately we didn't.
Right. So the mental strain is rough. Trying to parent while you're working, while you're doing online education with your kids. I mean, it's a major, major hot mess. So what things can we all do to help? I even hesitate to say help because sometimes we feel so overwhelmed that we feel like we can't dig out of it. But we want to provide some of those things tonight because certainly mental health, the evidence now, there's lots of studies that are being published on this, the increase in anxiety and depression, in alcohol use, in drug use, in suicide rates. The increase is pretty tremendous. And so we need to do things to protect ourselves.
And that's a really important point that Dr. Kelly's brought up, in the fact that in many of the states across the United States, I'm not talking about New York City, I'm not talking about New Orleans, but in many states, the suicide rate during this stay at home is higher than the coronavirus death.
Yes.
Totals.
So it's something that we do need to talk about, and we don't talk enough about mental health, but this has put a spotlight on mental health.
So let's just kind of take a step back and say, okay, what are some of the things that we can do? And I'm going to ask our personal question: what are things that we can do to like increase laughter and joy when it's hard to get past all the stress? What things can we do? And then we'll talk about the BioLife. But what are things that we can do to just change things up? Because the fact is, most of us are in our domiciles for large amounts of time.
Wow, that was a pretty good word.
Every once in a while, I get one.
$5 word.
Yeah, that's probably an SAT word.
So maybe you can look up words that you don't know and teach yourself new vocabulary. Maybe you can do that for laughs.
That's the type of thing I would do for laughs, not you.
Well, that's why I said it. So one of the things there's lots of things that you can do for laughter.
How about tickling?
Don't do that.
Okay, that didn't work.
Don't do that. But one of the things that
Should I run
I
naked
have
around the
done,
house?
No, please don't.
Oh, that
Okay.
should bring
No,
laughter.
I think the question there was, should you stop running naked around the house? I don't know that it was supposed, do
Touche.
you start? Okay.
One of the things that can be very annoying is social media, right? And one of the things that I personally have done on social media is that there are funny posts about all that we're going through. And I copy those and I share them on my story. I think they're hilarious. I save them. I look at them in my photos just to get a laugh and to share a laugh with somebody, to take some of the pressure off of the moment. That's what I do. I read funny things. I watch funny shows.
Little House on the Prairie's funny.
Nellie is really funny. And how Laura reacts to Nellie is even funnier. So yes, Little House on the Prairie is funny. Thank you.
Okay.
But Everybody Loves Raymond is really funny. It's old, and old people watch it, and so we're old. And so it's really a lot more fun to watch something like that than it is to watch the news.
Though the news is actually pretty darn funny most of the time.
Yeah.
Not what they're talking about.
Okay, that is a whole different
That's a different
change.
kind of funny.
And I think like taking on a hobby. I've heard so many people. So I was listening to someone today that had built, I forget the number, 130,000 part Lego space station, and they built that and taken on this hobby. And then others I've heard of are doing puzzles. And in fact, you can't buy a puzzle. So if you don't own any, apparently you're not getting into it right now, then you're going to get more depressed and the cycle just continues. I'll know what I'm going to do. But I mean, there are things, whatever we can do, like jump into serial podcasts. There are tons, there are over 130,000 podcasts that have over 600 million listeners. I heard that stat today. And then
I
there's
actually like your idea of just jumping into cereal.
yeah, or jumping into cereal.
So
Not
fill
the
up a
podcast
bathtub
cereal,
with cereal.
but actually a bathtub full of cereal. It might be the only good use for health for the cereal. And maybe if you do almond milk, it may nurture your skin as you jump in. I'm not
There you
sure.
Oh,
There you go.
excellent point.
There you
All right.
go. Good call.
So, but I think here's the thing. Let's talk about the role of serendipity and getting that, like the hormonal response
That
that
was
we need.
another SAT word pulled out.
But we need to create and put ourselves in situations where we have a hormonal response, correct? To
Yes.
be able to get some of that melatonin and all the, I don't even know all the, you guys know all the things that flow when I get
Yes.
happy and excited and things go and bring me joy. And like, I love John Krasinski. God bless him, because I don't know if you guys have watched the 3 episodes of him, but he's done the Some Good News, and it is 12 minutes of happiness, even if you're cheering on the Boston Red Sox. I'm okay with that. But you need to do something that you need to just change. And like, how do we then change? Because I think sometimes we're in such a deep hole and we're in so much of worry. Do we have to start changing what we eat, taking other medications? What do we do to get ourselves out of a hole so we can get in those situations?
I mean, I think one of the things, and yes, I'm a physician. Yes, I prescribe lots of medications. Medication should not be the first option.
Correct.
There's lots of things that should come before using medications.
70% of our serotonin, which is one of our good hormones, brain hormones, is produced in the gut. So you know how we talk about gut health all the time? This is paramount in improving our mood and lessening our stress and anxiety and depression, frankly. So if our gut is sick, then we're not going to produce the right amounts of serotonin. And we've talked about this many, many times. Probiotics are needed. Processed foods are not needed. And we've talked about the quarantine 15. We have seen a lot of people struggling with eating during quarantine and baking during quarantine. And that clearly works against mental health and de-stressing. So,
Baking can be
baking and giving it away. There you go. Or baking something healthy, a healthy twist on something that is loaded with processed things. Those are good things to do. So gut health is really, really important. It is also incredibly important. We've talked about this before. We talked about it last week and the week before. Getting outside is very important. I literally have to go outside. If it is not raining, I don't care if it's cold. I will put a coat on. I will take a blanket. I have to, excuse me, be outside. So.
That was
sorry.
a dry cough.
Great. So
Just looking for the symptoms.
those are things that have been shown to improve our mood, lessen anxiety, lessen depression, gut health, and getting outside and being physically active.
Absolutely. There's no question that physical activity actually improves mental health. Being out and seeing the sun, not just getting the vitamin D, but seeing the sun helps mental health incredibly.
So those are things that we would highly recommend. Now, there are other things that can be done. If you are a person who prays, that is incredibly important during times like this.
Yep.
If you believe in God, then resting those stresses and worries at his feet, that's important. If you are not a believer and don't believe in a God, then yoga, mindfulness,
Tai
things like
Chi,
that,
Qigong.
all of those things are very, very helpful in focusing,
Decreasing stress and anxiety.
focusing our minds on things that are helpful. So those are the
Pharmacologic.
non-pill form of things that can be done to improve mental health during this time.
So, and like, let's talk about like, I think it's Sue said staying on a schedule helps with stress and getting proper rest. And certainly that is. And sometimes, like I know for me right now, my schedule is I'm doing as best as I can, but it's figuring out how to balance the schedule. But I'm going to be on a 5 to 7 hour, not my usual 8 hour rest schedule for the next several weeks. And that's just how work is going to be right now. So how do you set up that schedule and sit in that routine? And are there things that you're finding for yourself even that helps create routine, helps create bandwidth in order to be healthier?
You just used bandwidth.
Serendipity. Lots of big words tonight. I don't know what's happening.
Domicile. I think he must be getting the word of the day.
Maybe you can do the word.
I am actually playing a bingo game back here, and you just have no idea what the hard ones are yet. So.
So one thing to remember, and this is not meant as a critique or anything, for most people, having routine is good. There are certain people, certain types of people that cannot survive on routine. They have to have...
Yes. But most people.
But for most people, if you're one of the people that needs routine, then do routine. One of the things that I would say and has been shown is to break up what you're doing.
Yes, well, that's how we do things when we are in our jobs and when we're functioning normally, right? We will do this for a while and then we move on to something else. We don't tend to just 8 hours do the same thing all the time. Some people do. But
even during those 8 hours, they get up and walk around once or twice.
Right. So breaking up, having a time goal of I'm going to do this until this time, and then if I would normally have a break at work, I'm going to have a break now. We have tried to do that, where we have a daily routine that we go through with breaks along the way. And those breaks might include a fizz drink to give us focus and walking during those times, and then sitting down and focusing and working again.
Like one of the things we saw when our middle child was home, that he actually exercises during the middle of his day.
Yes. He did
routinely
an exercise workout right in the middle of his workday, mid-afternoon. That is what he did. And he clocked in for work, clocked out, and did that during his break. So routine is really important. And then I was going to talk about the other thing that Sue mentioned, which is sleep. One of the things that we can do when we are quarantined is, what do they call it? Netflix binging and stay up all night.
Okay, I think you're thinking Netflix and chill, and that is a different thing. We'll go into that in my pop series that I do.
Right.
So we'll talk about that.
We can go into it when we talk about reproduction.
Okay, well, all right, back to the two of you. But yes, watch what I admittedly did a couple weeks ago when I was playing with your sons a late night game of Settlers of Catan, and at 2 a.m. I entered into the crazy world of the Tiger King. And suddenly I was 7 hours. It was 9 a.m. But I finished it all in one string, so I felt great. I mean,
Have you watched the new episode though?
you know, when I found out it was just an interview, I felt robbed. I'm like, I don't need to see a Joel McHale interview. I would go watch Community instead of do that. But okay, back to you two. All right.
Okay. Anywho, Sue, sleep is really, really important.
Absolutely.
Good sleep hygiene. Turn the TV off. Turn the phone off.
And
White
talking
noise.
about that,
Go ahead.
if you don't have to have your phone next to you, don't. You know, we as physicians have to, unfortunately. But it has been shown in multiple studies that if you look at your phone light during the night, it completely messes up your sleep cycle.
And I am living proof of that.
And you shouldn't be looking at your phone during the night unless you have to because of that. And it's truly just not healthy. Your body follows something we call circadian rhythm, which is a specific timing of waking up, working, going to sleep, and then your body repairs itself overnight. If during the middle of that overnight time, you get a bright light source like your phone, it completely messes up your body's ability to heal, messes up your immune system, messes up mental health, increases stress, increases anxiety.
So, yeah, sleep is good. I have horrible sleep hygiene. I fully admit it. One thing that does help me is melatonin. I wish that I didn't have to get up to use the restroom in the middle of the night. That is an issue because it wakes me up. And then I begin to worry, which is a really, really neat side effect of having to wake up. So sleep hygiene is super, super important. And I don't live out what I'm telling you. And I wish I could.
But Sue, you're absolutely right. It is one of the best ways to decrease stress.
Yes.
Is to have good sleep hygiene. And sleep, for most of us, about 8 hours a day.
Yes. Very good.
All right, let's talk about, you mentioned melatonin, but Donna talks about using Benadryl, and she uses that sometimes to fall asleep, and she's heard that even may lead to dementia. I have not heard that, so I'll let you talk.
It can actually lead to lots of problems. Benadryl should not be used for long-term use for sleep.
Right. In short spurts for sleep. Sometimes it is something that we use in the hospital to help people sleep instead of a sleep medication that can be addictive and can cause all kinds of issues.
Right. All the sleep medicines should not be used for more than really a few days to a week at a time.
The side effects from them are tremendous. But melatonin is the most natural sleep aid that you're going to find that is non-addictive.
And it takes really high doses for long times to cause any type of problem, really.
Yes. And it's something that is best used consistently, not kind of whenever you want to use it. It can be used like that, but using it consistently creates more of a pattern of healthy sleep. And so I would highly recommend melatonin. Some people will say to me, I've tried it before and it didn't work. Sometimes that has to do with the brand that you're purchasing. Sometimes that has to do with the dose that you're using. Sometimes it has to do with other sleep hygiene things that need to be corrected.
Because melatonin is what your brain uses
to go to sleep.
So for it not to work,
yes,
you have no brain?
You have a brain. So we all do. So it does
checking.
work.
So what about, like for me, melatonin, and I've played, I haven't figured out this. There's sometimes where it puts me almost into a too deep a sleep, or I become restless. I have too many dreams that I remember. I know I'm dreaming all the time, but they're dreams that I wake up that they just bother me. And I've been trying to at times, and I actually have been off of melatonin for the last probably month, I've been sleeping better, mostly because I just exhaust myself so bad that I fall on the pillow and wake up, and that's how it rolls. But when I've been actively trying to get in a rhythm of sleep and get those 8 hours, I play with 3 milligrams, 5 milligrams. Do I mix in a nice chamomile tea and bourbon? I don't know. What are the options here? And why do at certain times it just doesn't? I can't figure out a rhyme or rhythm between the different milligrams and different things. Is it just?
Well, I mean, like Dr. Kelly was saying, one thing you want to check is to make sure that there is a governing body
that's approving the supplement that you're buying.
Well, mine says Trader Joe's. That's the governing body that you're talking about, right? I mean, it's Trader Joe. I mean, how much?
USP.
There are a couple others, and we posted.
There are other ones.
Yeah. We posted about it, but the big thing is, if you're just randomly buying supplements, you have no idea what the real dose is.
Right. So some pills are going to have some melatonin, and other pills might have a lot of melatonin. You just don't know.
You don't know. And the next point, there are a lot of people that say when they use supplementary melatonin, they get more vivid dreams. I don't know if anybody knows why. I haven't seen any studies showing change in cortisol, change in serotonin levels, but that's what you would wonder about, and other hormones.
I've only had a few people ever have that issue. I actually have had a lot more people with sleep aids, prescription sleep aids, have problems like that. So melatonin, in terms of side effect profile, is going to have about the least side effects that you could imagine, and
has the least,
the most natural thing. I mean, that's what we use in our own bodies to get the sleep that we need.
All right. How about I was thinking of other things that may affect our mood, and how about like music? We played music in. I would play music right now, but it's hard to get the royalty-free stuff that's really kicking. What does that do to our mood? We talked about getting outside, but in these times, I mean, let's be honest. Tom Brady was kicked out of a park in Tampa Bay. I mean, how bad are things getting? What are some of those things that we can do to energize ourselves, relax ourselves, and how do we balance that? Because we can get ourselves too hyped up that then the downs are too low. Correct? I mean, if we're like getting the Motley Crue and then trying to go to sleep.
So one of the interesting things that's been shown in multiple studies is that the type of music you listen to does affect your mood without a question. And not just, energetic versus not energetic, but angry music has a tendency, angry music actually does increase anger levels in individuals. And, if you're listening to music that isn't angry, it gives it a complete opposite effect. And, I've heard people argue that forever. Research has actually proven that that's true.
Yes. So listening to uplifting, encouraging, not sad, not destructive, not angry music is very, very helpful. What was the other thing that you mentioned, Nate? Besides music?
I was just like exercise sometimes right before bed or getting all hyped up. That's what I was thinking there.
Everyone's different on the exercise front about when's the best time to do it.
Right. Some people like it first thing in the morning. Some people like to do this after their work day, middle of the day, whatever. But obviously, right when you're winding down in the evening,
probably
your
not the best.
circadian rhythm is heading you toward bed. Doing an exercise routine at that point would not be helpful.
Because it's not like when we're dealing with kids or little children where you want them running around right before bed so that they fall asleep.
Yes.
We don't exhaust ourselves when we exercise in general.
The other thing that I wanted to point out is there's so much isolation and people feel alone. And as much as you can, reach out to other people virtually. Thank goodness we have these crazy things called phones. And we have lots of ways that we can connect with people. So our daughter has been so kind to us to allow us to FaceTime every afternoon with our granddaughter. She looks forward to it. We look forward to it. That's a really, really important thing to do. I also want to point this out. We have a lot of elderly people who are feeling incredibly isolated right now. And not only do they normally feel isolated when the world is, normal and everybody's going about their business and they are maybe in some sort of assisted living facility, but now it's even worse because many of them are isolated to their own rooms and cannot gather together to dine together or anything like that. And so sometimes getting the focus off of ourselves and onto the needs of other people
Absolutely.
can be very, very encouraging and mentally recharging.
And you were talking about social media before. Remember, social media actually leads to more isolation.
Yes. If you're not trying to use it in a positive way. One of the things that I told you, I've done the funny things, but another thing that I do is read people, follow people who are uplifting and encouraging, not falsely so, but providing wisdom that is needed for days like this instead of focusing on people who are negative or fighting or whatever. I spin past those and focus on the things that are going to help me have a better focus today. So back to my point about reaching out to others, we have an obligation, I believe, to really reach out to elderly people who are feeling very isolated and wondering if and when they're ever going to be able to get out. John's dad, I feel for him because he is literally isolated to his room. And the only way that we can see him is he's on the 3rd floor and go outside of his assisted living location. And he opens and we shout to him through the screen. I mean, it's just very sad. So reaching out to people like that, FaceTiming, texting, calling them, provide encouragement to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Just to get the focus off.
And it's going to make you
ourselves.
feel better if you do it.
Yeah. Help somebody else.
Well, and my tip would be have a quick trigger figure. And that's not on something more violent. That is on hitting the unfollow and hitting the mute on your Facebook or any social media. If you're going to use social media and you don't want people to know that you're unfollowing them, but they're absolutely not helpful to your positive attitude that you want to have, just hit that little mute button. It says, mute for the next 30 days, or I think it says snooze for the next 30 days in Facebook world.
I didn't know that existed.
And you just click on the little, where you are, the little ellipses, and it clicks, and you'll see the snooze for 30 days. And then you don't see them for 30 days. And then when they come back, you get to do it all again, and it makes you feel great. Okay. But let's talk about things specifically. Are there things, because I know one of the products we were talking about earlier this week, I forget the name of it, but you mentioned that it is known to be able to be mood enhancing. What are specific things that we can eat, drink, put into our bodies that may be helpful to enhancing our mood, that are natural? And I'm hoping you're going to say dark chocolate.
Well,
Dark chocolate is good for you, actually. If you have 1 ounce per day, that's good for you.
Well,
What
man,
percentage?
amazingly, I have
At
this
least 16.
incredible 16-ounce bar and I can eat it in 1/16 a day. It's
See?
great.
Exactly. Okay, go ahead.
Let's say the first thing before we talk about the positives is just to point out, and I know I shouldn't point out the negatives, but processed food has been shown to increase depression, anxiety, and stress.
Yes, and removing it has been shown to help mood.
Right. So just eating whole foods,
Is a really, really good thing to do.
absolutely.
Not only for your health, but for your
Mental health.
Oh, watch out. John has to take the mask up. Let's get a close up here to get a drink here. All right. So all the let's
Notice I
talk
was
about
touching the inside.
look at him. He is a proper mask user. And luckily, I'm about 12 feet across this room, so I'm safe no matter whether the mask is up or not. So, all
Okay.
right, let's talk about foods.
Back to things that have been shown to help mood in terms of either supplements or could I say food sourcing, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
So you're going to be talking about the great food source of Monsanto.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yes.
was just making sure. I was checking. Want to make sure we're on the same wavelength across
Yes,
here. All right,
yes.
good.
So
I'm
we
not
have,
naming any names tonight. Shame on me.
we have posted previously about maca root powder.
Is that the Macarena?
I know. Dum-ba-da-dum-ba-da-dum-ba-da. I'm going to get a YouTube takedown. I just sang that song. Sorry about that.
And maca, while it has been shown to, how should I say this delicately, increase amorous behavior.
Yes.
It
Maca,
can
maca,
also,
maca, maca, maca.
Yeah. It can also improve mood and decrease anxiety and
Kelly wonders
stress.
why the protein powder never goes down every day.
Right, because he's adding maca to my protein powder. Yeah. So anyway,
Okay,
maca-
suddenly I feel really awkward in the room, so I'm going to
Right.
stick further back. Could we make this basement room bigger? All right.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
So, all right.
So maca root powder is one thing that can be added to your daily routine. But let me tell you just a couple other things, and then I'll let Dr. John talk about each one of them and all of the science that he's read
No,
about.
you're doing great.
Ashwagandha.
Is that a country in Africa?
Okay, why do these names? Couldn't we not just call these things like the Bob food and the fruit?
Saffron. Ashwagandha, saffron,
I think I've been to ashwagandha.
and rhodiola.
Okay, I'm just
John.
saying rhodiola. When I first heard that one, I was like, that just sounds like a skin fungus. I'm just saying. All right.
I have to agree. I was like, flower, fungus, what is it?
All right. I'm sure
Listen
they're
to
good.
me, people. Okay, so
No, so there is data that has been done. There have been studies, randomized controlled trials, as well as observational trials on each of these. They have been proven to have positive effect. In fact, on ashwagandha, it's been shown to be as good as
antidepressants.
antidepressant, as common antidepressants.
Yes. So we are actually in the next couple of days,
Yes.
yes, going to be posting. I couldn't remember when they were scheduled, but anyway, we are going to be posting about amounts and a little bit more about the scientific studies behind ashwagandha, saffron, rhodiola, and we have previously posted about
On maca.
maca.
But again, since it has some benefits,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we'll probably post again.
Well, yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about its effect on anxiety, stress, and depression.
Well,
so,
I think if it has the other benefits,
the
it helps.
amorous effects, yes.
It helps get rid of anxiety, stress,
And
and
thus-
especially depression.
All of those young people who are using maca, I just really hope that in 9 months we are not seeing families expanding rapidly. Oh, it's going to happen, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh
Quarantine
yes.
babies.
There-
So,
hey, we've already heard. What was it? COVID and Corona.
oh yeah, the names, people. Have you looked that up? That's a funny thing. Look up the names that are going to be given to bambinos as a result of.
Well, there was a set of
coronavirus.
twins that already
That's
got
correct.
named.
That's correct. So, anyway, those are supplements that may help you. So, and if you use them, we would love to hear about it.
Yeah, with ashwagandha, it's been shown, and this will be in the post, that there are specific doses that are necessary to get the benefit.
Right.
But it's pretty amazing.
True with saffron as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, we lead off the post with my favorite statement about saffron.
But we're not going to reveal what that is because you'll have to read it. Okay.
Oh, good thinking.
What else we got?
Well, speaking of that, let's talk about what they should be following on Facebook and on Instagram to be getting these amazing posts and talking about the topics that are coming up. For those who are watching and joining us, some I've seen for that because I'm sharing it on my personal feed tonight. A couple people for our first time. Welcome, first timers. You are being inducted into a great health and wellness family. And so, Dr. John, Dr. Kelly, where can they follow the posts that you guys are mentioning?
Well, first of all, if you're brand new to this and have not signed up for
our newsletter,
go to mgwellnessnewsletter.com and sign up for the newsletter.
That's still a thing? mgwellness.com.
It is still
Yahoo.
a thing because I'm 150 years old. So go to MG Wellness Newsletter.
You look great for 150.
.com.
I would have only guessed 142. So, I mean, I'm just, all right. So, yeah, so absolutely great. Good job getting there. And where can they see some of these posts?
So on Instagram at MG Wellness
One.
the number 1. And on Facebook,
MG Wellness 1.
MG Wellness 1. Please not only follow us, like us, come on, do this because
interact.
we have some goals in terms of numbers. We posted about this a couple of weeks ago. You can scroll back and see the posts. We posted about this, that when we reach 1,250 liking us in Facebook, and when we reach 1,000 in Instagram, we are going to have a live drawing for free MG Wellness wear. Okay? So I'm just telling you, get your friends, get your family, do it. Get on MG Wellness, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah, we have a Twitter, but honestly, we don't use it very much.
Yes. Facebook and Instagram is a better way for us to communicate this stuff.
That's the good way, right? Yeah. And so, and the other thing is engage.
Please.
What happens with Facebook is looking, all of you probably that are on Facebook, and most of you are watching on Facebook right now. You are following probably 75% of the people who are posting that you're following, and over half of the people you're following are probably not posting. 75% you never see what they post because it's that the algorithm says you're not really interested. So one, if you come to the MG Wellness page, I can guarantee you that Dr. John and Dr. Kelly are posting every day. Two, you can push, and I'm going to try to work on creating a video in the next week where you can make sure you're getting notified. You can go over to the little right and say, notify me when MG Wellness posts. That's helpful. And then if you comment and share, that tells Facebook, hey, this is good stuff. We're going to share this across with other people. And so they start encouraging your friends and they start saying, hey, this is a great stuff because, and this is just a great way for the community to start building and ask questions and learn more. And so both, and Instagram has a feed like that too, though it's not as driven by most people are just have a different way of choosing and using that. And so we would love to know what you're looking at. So that's a great way to do that. You can also be live commenting and questions right now. We have a couple more minutes, but when I'm interested, Dr. John, Dr. Kelly, how are you deciding what to post on?
So we do it in a few ways. One is we try to post about relevant topics.
Yeah, current events, you remember that in school. Current events, current health topics.
So 150 years ago was what? Sorry.
Oh, help me. Okay, so anyway, we try to be relevant with what's going on in our world, in health and wellness, in medical issues that are brought up. Obviously, we have been all consumed with coronavirus for the past several weeks, but over the next couple of weeks, while we may give updates on coronavirus, we're also going to be talking about other things like reading labels on food products to know if it's good or if it's not good for you. We're going to talk about skin products and all the junk that gets absorbed into your system with unhealthy products that we buy on the store shelves all the time. So we try to be really, really relevant with current events, but we also try to look for recently published data on health topics that can help you know how to be healthier.
For instance,
That's what we want to do, is be a help to you.
For instance, although there were a few people very upset by what we wrote about the flu vaccine and about coronavirus, that paper just came out this week.
Right.
And we wanted you guys, our family, to know about it because it's important. You still got to decide on your own whether or not you're doing the flu vaccine. We're just putting the information out there with the references so you can decide for yourself.
Right.
We also really like when you give us topics because that shows engagement, and then we know what's
important to you.
Because I promise, if I posted just about what I read, y'all would be bored real quickly.
Or not be able to understand it. It is really important when we have you guys even ask us questions, and you might say, this is the most ridiculous question ever, and feel embarrassed to ask that. Don't be embarrassed to ask that, because sometimes there are things that we haven't thought about, or sometimes they are things that we thought were kind of self-evident, but maybe they're not.
And that reminds me, I still owe Ted a post on muscle activation techniques.
Oh yeah, we looked it up, Ted. So if you're out there,
I will get it done. I apologize. I just remembered.
We do have a post about that. So give us those questions. That gives us topics to post about.
And we know that you're interested in those topics.
Yes, and that they're helpful to you. We also try to, if we see a health topic reported in the news, we try to give the true scientific picture of whatever that article was about. So we may agree with it, we may not agree with it, based upon our review of the scientific literature.
We try to give a layman's reading of the scientific literature.
Yes, that's our goal.
In other words, what happens is I read the article, I write something, and she makes it understandable.
Yes.
So I've been watching a couple of conversations going on. Let's end tonight with highlighting some shows, memes, things that have brought us joy in the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
And I know Dr. Kelly's pulling out her phone right now. And
what are they, Corkies?
For me, I mentioned John Krasinski. If you just go to YouTube or Facebook and search Some Good News, and if you haven't seen that, you're part of the, I think it's over 100 million views per episode. Some of those are probably repute across YouTube and Facebook, but he's just doing these every Sunday. He's producing from home with his family, this faux news channel that's just focused on good news, highlighting stories of good people that are doing things. They took the COVID unit from Boston to get lifetime tickets to the Red Sox from Big Papi. They did a Hamilton thing, and it's just joyful. It's fun. I will say it's the positive part of crying. It will make you cry when you see some of the things that are going on, but it's that joy cry, and you're like, it just makes me remember that there is the capability of the human spirit to win through. So what are some other things for you guys?
This right here.
Here, put it up by your face, and I'll see if I can get closer up to it. It's hard to tell. Yeah, it's hard.
I'm just telling you.
Oh, some of the haircuts we've seen.
Okay, yeah.
Woo-hoo!
It's a picture of a sloth.
With a bad haircut.
Oh, well, there's some really bad haircuts coming around, and hopefully mine doesn't get that way anytime soon. But
of all the things I learned in grade school, how to avoid cooties was the last one I ever expected to use. Until further notice, the days of the week are now called this day, that day, other day, someday, yesterday, today, and next day.
True.
So I love reading these stupid things, and they just make me laugh. What do you do?
I keep waiting for Michigan football to come back.
That's where we are, people. That's where we are.
It's like
We're struggling.
yes,
The
it's
struggle bus is real.
the 2005 Little Texas. What might have been? Oh, sorry.
I'd say we've watched the Colts Patriots game from 2005 when the Colts came back.
Yep. That was a great game.
The Georgia Rose Bowl the other day,
Yes.
beating Oklahoma. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, our precious Oklahoma friends.
Yeah.
We love you.
Hope you're safe from the tornadoes, and sorry
Yes.
about the Rose Bowl game.
Oh, and and obviously everybody loves Raymond and Little House. We've mentioned. Are there shows that bring you guys joy that are on that are enjoyable?
Seinfeld.
The Muppets, if you can find it.
Oh, speaking
The
of Jim Henson
Muppets.
Productions, so when his first when he did the HBO Fraggle Rock
Yes.
is coming back, and they were planning a comeback coming up in May, and they're still doing it, but all their producers and people and animators and puppet people are all filming it from home, and then it's being edited together.
Oh, wow.
And the preview is online, and you can find it. It looks amazing. I'm not a huge Fraggle Rock, but I was just like, the production they were getting from everybody being at home and having their own production, high-end production equipment, but I thought it was really cool. So there are so many things. I'm so thankful. And ESPN was doing it totally for a money grab, but then bringing out The Last Dance, which is the 10 series documentary on Michael Jordan. But there are just things that you can find those little bits of joy. If you don't like sports, don't watch sports. Then find things to read and books. There are actually, I was reading that some of the major booksellers are rushing out some of their books to get them out a little bit earlier. Some of them were supposed to be out in June, July, and August. They're going to be a little earlier so they can deliver them to you, especially in fact, one of them, they're launching the e-version, the Kindle versions and the ebook versions 2 weeks earlier, I think it was, than the actual physical, because they're pushing it out saying people want to read, and let's give them an opportunity to read something that's edifying, that's encouraging, that's good. As we close tonight, guys, what are some other things that we'd encourage people to do with their time to redeem this time of the 2020 quarantine COVID response?
Pray. Watch funny things. Laugh. Get outside to see the sun and to move.
Interact with others.
Encourage other people. There are a lot of people.
Interact with others virtually.
Yes. And there are a lot of people who are in really desperate situations, and reach out to somebody else. It can help get the focus off of your own
misery.
So we thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for being an encouragement to us and following along with us. Send us your thoughts, please. We want to know what you want to hear about.
All right. That's been another MG Wellness. We're here every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. Rain, sleet, snow. Only thing that keeps us off the air are power outages and internet outages. And even that, we sometimes work around and figure out ways to get a little bit of content up. And so on that, we will see you guys next Wednesday. Everybody have a great night.
Ciao.
Bye.